Live life so that you create good vibes. The good vibes. Live life so that you radiate good vibes. The good vibes. Live life so that you generate good vibes. The good vibes. Live life so as to emanate good vibes. The good vibes. Spread the message of your life with good vibes. With good vibes. With good vibes. Welcome to the Good Vibes Podcast. Hey my friends, and welcome to this episode of the Good Vibes. I'm super excited that you are over here. Today we will continue on our journey of evolved learning. Evolved learning is when we learn from all the people in our lives and otherwise, all the things and experiences that we encounter. In general, we learn from life. So get pumped up now to feel alive with the Good Vibes. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Good Vibes Podcast. I'm your host Tushar. Today is the 30th of May 2020. We have a special episode lined up for you, and this is a listener request. The listener is Akshat Agarwal, who is one of my dearest friends. He's one of my childhood friends. I've known him for the past 14 years, around 14 to 15 years of my life. And our friendship traces back to the years of 2005, 2006. And being brought up in a military household, we had to shift places every now and then. And we would literally burst out into tears when we would get to know the news, or when we had to shift, because it would feel as if that's the end of the world, because our friend is not going to move with us. And it's happened with me a couple of times, and one of my friends with which this has happened is him. And luckily we met again in another posting and another posting. So during like the 8 or 9 postings or tenures that I've had to move in this defense background, I've met him thrice, and that's a very big coincidence. And it's very nice to hear from him. I reached out to him a couple of days ago, and we were talking, and he was telling me how things are at his end, and he requested a podcast on coping mechanisms. He said that he's going to be hearing all the episodes that have been put up, and even I had a discussion with my mother recently about coping mechanisms, and she was telling me an affirmation by Marissa Peer, which goes saying that I have excellent coping mechanisms. I cope excellently. And I think let's talk about it. It's the right space to speak about it, and we're in the right forum. And the principle, the basis of the whole podcast is that we are fine right now, and that however we feel like whatever our situation is right now, the reality is, in fact, all of us are just about coping, and we are making it through the day. And that's all that counts right now. We don't need to be superhumans, or we don't need to do much right now. We are coping day by day, which becomes week by week, which becomes month by month. And the world is in a flux right now. So a lot of things keep changing by the week, by the month. The minute you feel that you have settled down, or this is the way things are going to be, suddenly things are not the way that you think they are going to be. And this calls for a new perspective, a shift, because we are very uncomfortable with uncertainty. We want there to be a specific answer. We want an answer. And what do you do when you don't get an answer? What do you do when there is no answer? I meditated upon this today, and there were a lot of thoughts in my mind. And even I have right now, perhaps around this time, a feeling of some things are certain and definite, but many things you can't put a finger on. Because it's constantly changing, and the dynamics of things at this stage is being determined by a lot of factors, not just of a particular segment of the society, of the people in let's say in power, or the ministers, or the big companies, or the CEOs. It does not, like, everybody is limited to their own capacity right now, and things are changing very drastically and dynamically. In the sense, if there are a group of people who are not doing well, they affect the society equally as much as a CEO or a minister would like to do something for them. In the sense, the dynamics of the society is no more being dictated. It's under a state of flux. And this is why it is causing a lot of anxiety, because nobody is in control of what to do. Nobody has the reins to trim what can be done or what cannot be done, because the human, as powerful or as intelligent as he is, cannot tame nature. And this is something we are witnessing and realizing every day. And if we are able to be at peace with it and agree with it, we find a different sense of control over things, because we have a different perspective over things. Whereas if we want to trace back to our old ways of having a definite, seeing impact of our actions, it may not be the same, because, like I told you, everything is being dictated by factors which we cannot see. And that's the beauty of this time period. How do you make peace with no answer? Sometimes we all want an answer. We want an answer to the fact that we will get a secure job, that we'll be able to look after our family, that we'll be able to support our family, that we'll be able to answer our parents and make them feel proud, that we'll be able to stand up in society and serve society. We want answers as to how our hard work, how our efforts and dedication is going to pay off in the end. We want answers to how we are going to be useful, or what is it that we are going to do of ourselves. And such answers were a traded path in the past. That because think of the first people who came out with this answer. They didn't have any map, they didn't have any road map, or they didn't have any people to probably look up to, or they didn't have anybody who would tell them that this is what is going to happen. But they went and did something. They tried, they failed, they achieved something, and then people saw them and they became an example. And that's why down the road there were so many such examples, and that became a path, a well-trodden path, that you walk this path and you will get to a place which looks something like this, and in that place you will do something like this, and thus you can carry on. From there you'll get a new map. But what has happened now is that path has temporarily been closed for a lot of us. And for many of us, it seems like it is permanently closed. And that place which was described as something like this no more exists for a lot of us, because the world is changed because of a pandemic. And when this has happened, when the world is changed in this manner, we are scared that we're never going to get to that place described as something like this will happen, and then we'll go to the next place, because we've made a whole map for ourselves of where we want to reach. But in an alternate reality, if we follow the universal laws of hard work and sincerity, if you've put in sincere and dedicated effort, it will pay off. We know that. So if we don't hold on to the form, like Ines said in her previous podcast, without holding on to the form of her project, she was inclined to bring out the result and the concept that she had. Thus, if without holding on to the form of what we wish to see, we consistently keep putting in the efforts, we will achieve something, and there will be another place where we will probably be the first ones to describe the next people on the same path, that this is the new place and here are the things, this is what you see, this is what is really nice about this place, this is what needs improvement, and here are the different maps to reach over here. You are going to be perhaps the pioneers of this path, and you're going to lead people to this place. And that's something to look forward to, because that is going to happen. Because there are people who are going to still put in hard work and efforts, knowing that it is going to lead to something. And that is why it is worth putting in your best right now, because the whole idea has shifted, and there is a void. There's a large void, or let's say that there is a very big river and there is no bridge, and all the engineers are wondering, how can this bridge be built from nothing? We don't have any resources, we don't have any facilities, we don't have the tractors, we don't have anything right now, and we need to cross this bridge from this side to the other side. But the truth is, one of the engineers or a group of them will say that, yeah, we don't have anything, but we can start with something. Let's think of something. Let's start studying the river. And it may take them maybe 15 to 20 years for them to really build the bridge. But they would have built the bridge, they would have crossed it, and from the other side, they'll tell the people who plan to build another bridge how to start from the beginning. And this is the story of the human race. It's always been like this. Always. It's always been like this. It's happened with the great wars. It's happened with racism. It's happened with all forms of equality and struggle. There's always been a starting point at where people didn't know what to do, didn't have any resources, didn't have any idea, didn't have any clue, didn't know what is going to happen. And they had a gut instinct of an end point in sight. And that's what's important. And the fact that that's far away doesn't stop us from reaching there. The fact that that's far away doesn't stop us from taking an unknown path. I know it's far away and we can't see anything, but that does not stop us from moving towards it. Because we may fail and we may drown, or we may get swayed away by the water. But knowing that we are strong, we'll find a way to get back up, to get out of the difficult and murky waters, to find our stepping and build the bridge. And moreover, we have support of a lot of people right now. Everybody is in the same boat, which reminds me that sometimes when you do not have a bridge ready, you always still have a boat. So, yeah, there are so many people who are in this with you. You are not the only one who doesn't know what to do things. You're not the only one who has no clue. Everyone has no clue. Nobody knows anything. Even the most qualified doctors who have spent 30 years in deep study of their research, even the researchers who have spent a lifetime trying to figure out something, now they need to figure out a vaccination for this, for COVID, for this disease. And it's going to take its own time. So, with all of this said, what can we take away from this? What can we really take away from this situation? One is an understanding of the situation. Without understanding it, it's difficult to calm yourself. I think that's the main thing. That yes, the world is agitated. Everybody is worried about jobs. Everybody is worried about food, water. The scarcity mindset does tend to kick in. And the fact that things don't get fixed here and now is another thing, is another, let's say, factor which plays a role. The fact that the colleges do not respond immediately, the fact that nobody knows what to do. Imagine yourself in the education minister or even the prime minister's seat. Do you think he knows what to do? He is relying on the health professionals, and the health professionals are relying on the researchers. The researchers are relying on some miracle by God, which creates a vaccine that stops this entire problem. So, we are all relying on a miracle, and we really don't have an answer. How do we feel comfortable in this situation? By knowing that we do not need an answer. That's how we feel comfortable. By knowing that the fact that we are not getting an answer is exactly the answer we require. We do not need an answer. For once, we do not need to know what we are going to do. For once, we do not need to know how this world is going to look in the next 5 years. We do not need to know who we are going to be with, how we are going to appear, what role we are going to play in society, how things will pan out. We do not need to know. all we need to know is that things will continue and we will find peace in the happenings. In the murky waters, we will be able to sail our boat. We'll be able to cross the river. We'll be able to reach the other side. Maybe we'll find resources on the other side, help bring them back, and start building the bridge. Because that's what we are made of. We are made for the best. I hope this podcast was helpful. And I hope it didn't solve any answers for you. Because that's the truth. No one has the answers. I don't have the answers. I cannot solve this pandemic, nor can you, nor can anybody, nor can any podcast in the world. And it sounds like a waste of time trying to ponder about this, trying to discuss about this, trying to give certainty. But if I can achieve anything out of this podcast, I want to give you uncertainty. And I want to give it to you willingly, with love, care, sincerity, and a pang of truth that things are as uncertain as it can get. And that's the best thing you can ever hope for. Because you do not know what you can create when things are uncertain. You do not know the person you can become when things are uncertain. You do not know who you can transform into when things are uncertain. And if this message has hit you, I think I've done my role. I think I've played my duty over here of reminding you that it's all okay. And if you're just about coping, you're fine. You're not missing out on anything right now. You're okay where you are. And I guess in the end, what would have taken the entire podcast, I would have told the small basic things again. That work your day from, keep your focus on the small things without worrying too much about the long term. Because like I told you, things are so dynamic and in a flux that the long term does not exist, only now exists. So go from album to album. Hear a new album today, hear a new song today, and go from song to song, like the songs that you like. Wash your utensils, wash your clothes, and there is no hurry to make things right, to be all right, to feel all right. There is no tearing hurry. If you're feeling anxious, don't make it a goal of yours to suddenly feel okay. There is no hurry. Let the anxiety take its time. It's like quarantine. Super isolate your worries. Super isolate them. Do this as a practice. Take your worries, whatever is running in your mind, take out some time, sit with yourself for 10 minutes and do this visualization exercise. The pandemic is not about a coronavirus spreading. It is about your worry spreading within your mind. The worries is causing the pandemic, not the coronavirus. The virus is just popping from person to person and doing its duty. Whereas we are the people who are getting hyper worried and scared about all the natural occurrences that happen. Isolate your worries. Put them into quarantine. If you're worried of not getting your college degree, put that into quarantine. Let that worry not spread into all the other areas of your life. Put it into self-isolation for 14, 15, how many ever days you want. Put the other worries, you're scared you won't get a good job, put that into isolation. View it, observe it, study it, be a researcher. And these are the diseases that you can cure. You have the answers to them. All with the backdrop of knowing that you are enough and you are capable. When you know that you are enough and you are capable, and the rational part of your mind focuses on the vaccine, which is in the microscope, keep analyzing all the places that you have been capable and your hard work has paid off with efforts. When you are able to see that you have been able to do something, you have achieved something, you'll see that when the time comes, you will do something. And I'd say be strong for the time being, and just isolate your worries and feelings and ride the experience. It's a time of uncertainty, and it's a time of like no uncertainty like this. This is the time for uncertainty. It's always been like this, but it's just so much more obvious now to everybody. We were all under the impression that things are how we want, and it's just so much more obvious how the nature of life is. I hope you take out the time to study or experience this, because it's a gift of its own nature. And with loving regards, I'd like to bid you farewell, let you know that I care for you, and this podcast is for you. And I hope you stay safe and all of the people around you are safe and you're maintaining social distance and taking all the required precautions, and that there will be progress, whatever that seems like, or the form of it, we do not know. However, we know that through the history of humankind, that something always happens, something will happen. I hope to see you again, meet you again next time. Hey my friends, did you enjoy this podcast? If you did, do rate, review and subscribe to it on iTunes or whichever app or application you are using. And if you feel someone in your life needs to hear this message, don't think twice about sharing it. Or if you feel this inspires you to record one of your own podcasts, go ahead and spread the good vibes. Spread the message of your life with good vibes, with good